The training blade's trajectory violation alarm shrieked across every monitoring station simultaneously. Instructor Jixrin stared at his empty hand, then at the human female who'd just plucked his combat knife from midair without glancing up from her diagnostic scanner. The blade now rested casually beside her workstation, still spinning slightly from the momentum she'd stolen from its flight path. Neural response time, 0.03 seconds. Medical Officer Zilmoth's voice cracked across the observation deck's comm system. That's impossible. The blade traveled 0.89 meters. No known species processes threat assessment that quickly. Gina, the human quality control inspector borrowed from the station's civilian sector, tapped her scanner twice, frowned at the readout, and reached for the blade without looking. She held it up to the light, examining the edge while her other hand continued adjusting calibration settings on the training room's sensor array. "This balance is off," she said, still focused on her screen. "No wonder your accuracy metrics are skewed. The weight distributions shifted 0.3 centimeters toward the pommel." Commander Kulvax's claws scraped against the observation deck's railing. "Jixrin, report. Was that throw announced?" "Negative, Commander." The instructor's vocal sac pulsed with confusion. "Standard distraction protocol. Silent approach, optimal striking angle, velocity calculated to test peripheral awareness during technical work." He gestured at the wall of monitoring equipment surrounding Gina's position. "Every species we've tested requires conscious attention shift to register incoming threats. The human's neural activity shows no deviation from her primary task." "Because there wasn't a deviation," Zilmoth interrupted, pulling up brain scan overlays that painted the observation windows with impossible data streams. "Her consciousness didn't shift. It processed both simultaneously. Look at these patterns. Her visual cortex registered the threat, her motor systems responded, and her frontal lobe never stopped analyzing that circuit diagnostic. She's running parallel cognitive processes." Gina set the blade down and made a note on her datapad. "Hey, can someone explain why the environmental sensors keep flickering? I'm trying to establish baseline readings for the neural scanners, but something's interfering with the—" Jixrin threw another blade. This one came from behind, launched during her sentence, trajectory optimized to exploit the acoustic distraction of her own voice. Gina's left hand shot up, caught the weapon by its handle, and placed it next to the first blade. Her right hand never stopped typing. "With the quantum field stabilizers," she finished. "Are those supposed to cycle every 8 seconds? Because that's throwing off everything." The observation deck erupted in chaos. "Get me high command," Kulvax snapped. "Now!" "Commander, the neural—" Readings. Zilmoth's display flickered with data streams that contradicted 200 years of xenobiology. She's not using enhanced reflexes. She's not using combat precognition. Her brain is genuinely processing multiple consciousness streams in real time. That shouldn't be biologically possible. Define "shouldn't be possible" when a civilian contractor just disarmed a master combat instructor twice without interrupting her workflow. Kulvax leaned forward, her secondary eyes focusing on the human below. "Jixrin, escalate to Combat Protocol 9. The instructor's crest flattened against his skull. "Commander, that protocol is designed to overwhelm trained soldiers. She's a technical specialist reviewing equipment calibration." "She just caught 2 surprise attacks without looking. Escalate." Jixrin reached for his combat harness, pulling 3 balanced throwing stars from their magnetic holsters. He moved into position, calculating angles that would force the human to choose which threats to address. The protocol was simple: create more incoming vectors than any single consciousness could track. Gina squinted at her scanner, tilting it toward the overhead lights. "Seriously, is anyone else seeing these power fluctuations? I can't tell if this is equipment malfunction or if your facility's grid is just—" 3 stars flew simultaneously, one high, one low, one directly at center mass. All 3 changed direction mid-flight, plucked from the air by movements too quick for the observation cameras to track clearly. Gina examined each projectile in turn, comparing their edges. Okay, these are definitely from different manufacturing batches, she said, lining them up on her workspace. See how the crystalline structure varies? You're getting inconsistent hardness ratings across your weapons inventory. That's going to compromise your training data integrity. Zilmoth's medical readouts painted the observation windows red. Her heart rate increased by 8 beats per minute. 8. She just defended against a kill pattern attack, and her physiological response registers as mild annoyance. Not annoyance, Gina called up, apparently hearing through the supposedly soundproofed observation deck. Concern. If your weapon specs are this inconsistent, your entire combat curriculum might be teaching techniques based on faulty equipment performance. Coolvax's comm unit chimed. High Command, responding in under 60 seconds. Commander, explain why you've triggered emergency protocols during routine equipment inspection. Sir, we have a situation that violates baseline neurological principles. Coolvax gestured at the monitoring displays. The human is demonstrating threat response capabilities that break our understanding of conscious attention. Below, Gina had returned to her original diagnostic work, the 5 captured weapons arranged neatly beside her scanner. She hummed something while typing, a sound pattern that made Jixrin's combat instincts scream warnings about relaxed predators. How many projectiles has she neutralized? High Command asked. 5, sir, without conscious attention shift. And her assigned task? Zilmoth checked the work logs. She's 42% ahead of projected completion timeline. The distraction attempts have had 0 impact on her productivity. The comm went silent for 3 seconds. I'm dispatching the xenopsychology team, High Command said finally. And Commander, don't let her leave that room until we understand what we're dealing with. Gina glanced up at the observation deck, waved cheerfully, and held up her scanner. Hey, I found your problem! Someone installed the neural monitoring equipment backwards. The input sensors are reading output data. Want me to fix it while I'm here? Or should I just note it in my report? Coolvax looked at Zilmoth. She knew we were watching. She's known the entire time, the medical officer whispered. Look at her positioning. She's kept every monitoring device in her peripheral vision while working. She's been aware of 17 different observation points simultaneously. 17, Coolvax repeated. How many attention streams do human brains support? Zilmoth pulled up comparison charts. Every known sapient species, their neural architectures, their consciousness models. Based on universal biological principles? 1, maybe 2 under extreme training. They both looked down at Gina, who'd started disassembling the backwards neural scanner while simultaneously updating her diagnostic notes and keeping track of Jixrin's position as he circled for another attack angle. I don't think she's operating under universal biological principles, Coolvax said quietly. The trajectory alarm shrieked again, 6 blades this time, from 3 different vectors. Gina caught them all without pausing her humming. No, Zilmoth agreed, watching impossible data scroll across every screen. I don't think she is. Jixrin didn't wait for authorization. He deployed his full combat loadout, 12 throwing implements, each designed for different tactical scenarios. Knives, stars, discs, and weighted darts spread across his harness in a pattern he'd perfected over 30 years of instruction. The first volley launched in a spiral pattern, 8 projectiles, overlapping trajectories, timed to arrive in 0.02-second intervals that would force any defender to prioritize which threats to address. Gina's hands moved like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. Each weapon found itself redirected into a growing pile on her workstation, sorted by type without apparent thought. Her eyes never left the circuit board she was examining. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, she said, pointing at a component with one hand while the other casually deflected a weighted dart that had ricocheted off the wall. Your power regulators are rated for standard atmospheric resistance, but you're running. Do them in a training facility with variable gravity fields. The thermal expansion coefficient is completely wrong for this application. The observation deck had filled with specialists, neurologists, combat theorists, xenobiologists, Everyone who could access the emergency channel now crowded against the windows, watching their instruments register impossible readings. Her visual cortex is processing 23 distinct objects simultaneously, one neurologist breathed, manipulating a holographic display. 23. And that's just what we can measure. Her actual awareness field might be larger. Look at the metabolic readings, another added. Her brain's glucose consumption hasn't increased. She's not working harder. This is her baseline cognitive function. Jixrin launched the remaining implements in a compressed pattern, then immediately drew his backup set. 18 weapons in flight, converging from every angle his position allowed. Gina plucked each one from the air in rhythm with her explanation. So what you need, catch, is either upgraded regulators, catch, or a complete redesign, catch, of your environmental control logic, catch, to account for the interaction between catch, artificial gravity and standard electrical components. She set the last 3 blades down in perfect alignment with the others. Otherwise, you'll keep getting these fluctuations every 8.2 seconds, which, by the way, is driving me nuts. Commander Coolvax descended from the observation deck, entering the training floor with her command staff behind her. She approached Gina's workstation slowly, studying the human who just casually disarmed a master instructor 30 times without acknowledging the attacks as threats. "Inspector Gina," Coolvax said carefully, "are you aware that Instructor Jixrin has been attempting to compromise your focus?" Gina looked up, genuinely surprised. "Compromise? Oh, the knives?" She gestured at the pile of weapons. "I figured that was some kind of equipment test. Can she work in a distracting environment or something? Is this not normal for quality control inspections?" Zilmoth appeared beside the commander, portable medical scanner active. "Inspector, those were lethal force training weapons. Each throw was calculated to test combat reflexes under cognitive load." "Okay." Gina tilted her head. "Was I supposed to react differently? Because honestly, I've done inspections in active manufacturing facilities where forklifts and overhead cranes are moving constantly. This was actually pretty quiet by comparison." "Forklifts," Jixrin repeated flatly. "You compare master-level combat techniques to industrial vehicles." "I mean, both involve tracking moving objects while concentrating on something else?" Gina shrugged. "Last month I was calibrating sensors in a shipyard where they were testing thruster systems.
Do you know how distracting random acceleration forces are? At least your knives followed predictable ballistic curves." The neurologist who'd been monitoring her brain activity pushed through the crowd. "Inspector, I need you to understand what we're observing. When you caught those weapons while discussing circuit boards, your neural patterns showed completely independent processing streams. Your threat assessment systems and your analytical reasoning operated simultaneously without interference. That shouldn't be possible." "Why not?" Gina pulled up a schematic on her datapad. "I'm looking at this design, listening to you talk, aware that Commander Coolvax is standing 0.9 meters to my left, tracking Jixrin's position because he hasn't relaxed his combat stance. And noticing that someone in the observation deck just activated 3 additional monitoring systems." She pointed upward without looking. "The neural scanners specifically, the ones that were installed backwards until I fixed them 5 minutes ago." Every head in the room turned toward the observation deck where a technician was indeed adjusting equipment. "You knew that happened," Coolvax said slowly. "While discussing thermal expansion coefficients and disarming multiple attack patterns." "Is this weird?" Gina looked genuinely confused. "Because you all seem really concerned about something that feels completely normal to me." Zilmoth's scanner chimed with updated readings. "Commander, her brain architecture includes structural features we don't see in any other species. Enhanced corpus callosum integration, distributed attention networks, what appears to be evolutionary adaptations for constant environmental monitoring."
Humans evolved on a death world, Gina offered helpfully. Lots of things wanted to eat us. We got really good at paying attention to multiple threats while still doing whatever we needed to survive. Is that not common? No, Kulvak said. It's unique. Every other species achieves focus by filtering external stimuli. You're telling me humans never developed that filter? Oh, we can filter when we want to. We call it concentration. Gina returned to her circuit board analysis. But that's actually harder than just being aware of everything. Takes more effort to ignore stuff than to just track it in the background. Jixrin reached for another weapon, then stopped. Commander, I've exhausted my standard arsenal. To continue testing, I'll need to access heavy combat implements or multiple assistants for coordinated attacks. Do that, Kulvak ordered. Get 3 instructors. I want to see the upper limit of human parallel processing. Can you do that after I finish this inspection? Gina asked, not looking up. Because I'm on a timeline here, and your environmental systems really do need attention. Also, the lighting in this corner is terrible for detail work. Any chance someone could adjust the overhead panels? A junior technician
Immediately moved toward the lighting controls. Wait, Zilmoth said. She just gave a casual request while we're discussing her impossible neurological capabilities, and we're responding as if it's reasonable. Gina glanced up, smiling. I just asked for better lighting. That seems pretty reasonable. You disarmed 30 lethal attacks without conscious effort, the neurologist protested. Nothing about this situation is reasonable. Sure it is. Gina pointed at her scanner. I'm doing my job. Jixrin is doing his job. You're all doing your jobs. The only unreasonable thing is trying to do precision calibration work in insufficient illumination. She looked at the technician who stood frozen at the lighting controls. Seriously, brighter would be great. These circuit traces are tiny. The lights brightened. Kulvax watched the human return to her inspection work, humming again, apparently unconcerned that she'd just revealed cognitive abilities that violated every principle of sapient neurology. Get me the High Command Xenopsychology team, she said quietly, and someone find out exactly what kind of world produces brains like this. Below, Gina caught another thrown blade that Jixrin had launched experimentally, added it to her sorted collection, and made a note about voltage irregularities. She didn't even pause her humming. Zilmoth positioned the neural mapping array around Gina's workstation, creating a 3-dimensional scan field that captured every electrical impulse in her brain. The human continued her inspection work, occasionally reaching out to catch whatever Jixrin and his 3 assistant instructors threw at her. This is extraordinary, Zilmoth murmured, watching data streams paint impossible patterns across the holographic display. Your consciousness isn't linear. You're operating what appears to be 5? 6? Distinct processing threads simultaneously. Background processing, Gina said, signing off on a completed diagnostic report. Like running multiple programs on a computer. My conscious attention is on this circuit analysis, but other parts of my brain handle routine tasks automatically. Routine tasks, Jixrin said flatly, launching a complex attack pattern that his assistants had spent months perfecting. You categorize combat-level threat response as routine. Gina's hands moved in a blur, intercepting 8 projectiles from 4 different vectors. She examined each weapon briefly, then began tossing them back to their respective throwers, sorted by weight, heaviest first. Muscle memory, she explained, returning blades in perfect spinning arcs that landed handle first in each instructor's grip. My body learns movement patterns and executes them without requiring conscious thought. Like walking. I don't think left foot, right foot. I just walk while thinking about other things. Walking doesn't involve tracking hypersonic projectiles, one assistant instructor protested. No, but catching does.
Gina held up her hands. I played softball for 6 years. You learn to track fast-moving objects while simultaneously positioning your body, calculating trajectory, and planning your next action. Eventually, it becomes automatic. The senior military council materialized as holographic projections around the training floor, summoned by emergency protocols that hadn't been activated in 2 decades. Commander Kulvax, the lead counselor said, explain why our entire academy is on tactical alert. Kulvax gestured at Gina, who was now explaining voltage regulation principles while casually deflecting throwing stars with one hand and typing with the other. The human is demonstrating cognitive capabilities that invalidate our fundamental assumptions about consciousness, attention, and combat readiness. Invalidate how? Zilmoth rotated the neural scan display for the council's viewing. Every species we've studied achieves focus through attention tunneling, filtering external stimuli to concentrate on primary tasks. Humans appear to have evolved the opposite strategy. They maintain constant environmental awareness while simultaneously engaging in complex analytical work. Our entire distraction-based combat curriculum is designed to exploit attention tunneling, Jixrin added, frustration evident in his posture. We train soldiers to resist focus disruption during tactical operations. Humans don't have focus disruption. They're never not paying attention to everything. One counselor leaned forward, studying Gina. Inspector, are all humans capable of this? This? Gina looked up from her completed inspection report. You mean working while people throw stuff? Yeah, pretty much. Some people are better at it than others, but basic multitasking is normal. She paused. Wait, can other species not do this? No, Zilmoth said simply. We can't. Huh. Gina considered this. That must make driving really difficult. Driving? Operating vehicles. You have to watch the road, monitor your speed, track other vehicles, listen for warning sounds, plan your route, and usually talk to passengers or listen to music at the same time. She tilted her head. How do you do that if you can only focus on one thing? The council chamber fell silent. We use automated systems, a counselor said finally. Vehicles that don't require constant operator attention. But what if the automation fails? Then we stop and address the failure. Gina's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on uncomfortable realization. Oh. Wow. Okay, so humans might be really weird about this. Might be? Kulvax's voice carried an edge of hysteria. Inspector, you've just completed a comprehensive technical inspection, defended against 63 combat attacks, maintained conversation with 7 individuals, and tracked every person in this facility, all simultaneously. You've rendered our combat training doctrine obsolete by existing. Gina glanced at her. Datapad, checking the time. I'm actually ahead of schedule. Do you need me to inspect anything else, or can I move to the next facility on my list? The council stared at her. She wants to know if there's more work, Zilmoth translated unnecessarily. Inspector, the lead counselor said carefully. We need to understand human cognitive architecture before you leave. This has significant implications for military doctrine, vehicle operation, crisis management, and approximately 800 other applications. Gina shrugged. Okay, but can someone explain what the fuss is about? Because from where I'm standing, I just did a standard equipment inspection. Zilmoth compiled the neural mapping data into a presentation that filled the training floor's central display with branching consciousness models and evolutionary biology charts. Humans evolved on what we classify as a Class 12 death world, the medical officer began. Apex predators and prey species both. Their brains developed hunting adaptations, forward-facing eyes, motion tracking, spatial prediction, while simultaneously retaining prey survival traits like peripheral threat detection and constant environmental scanning. The display showed comparison models: predator species with focused attention, prey species with broad awareness, and humans
with both systems operating simultaneously. That's biologically contradictory, a counselor objected. Yes, Zolmoth agreed, which is why we've never encountered it before. Most species evolved as either hunters or hunted. Humans were both, competing against other apex predators while remaining vulnerable to ambush. Their solution was developing parallel processing architecture that maintains predator focus and prey awareness simultaneously. Gina raised her hand like a student in class. Can I add something? Coolvax gestured permission. We also invented cars pretty early in our technological development, Gina said. Vehicles that go really fast on crowded roads. So we got even better at tracking multiple things simultaneously because otherwise we'd crash constantly. She pulled out her data pad showing a video of human traffic. See? We're monitoring speed, distance, other vehicles, pedestrians, traffic signals, road conditions, navigation directions, and usually having conversations or eating food, all at once, at 100 kilometers per hour. The council watched the video in horrified silence. You're operating deadly machinery while consuming nutrients? One counselor asked weakly. Sometimes we're also changing music, checking mirrors, adjusting temperature controls, and watching for emergency vehicles. Gina shrugged. It's just normal commuting. Jixrin activated a training drone, a small aerial unit designed to test reaction speed. It launched micro-projectiles at random intervals while maneuvering unpredictably. Gina batted away its attacks with one hand while pulling up code on her datapad with the other. Oh, hey, I
Found the bug in your environmental control system. See this logic loop? It's creating the 8-second cycle because someone used the wrong comparison operator. She swatted 3 more projectiles. Change this to greater than or equal, and your fluctuation problem disappears. She's debugging code, Zolmoth said unnecessarily, while defending against autonomous combat systems. It's not that complicated, Gina protested. The code is right here, and the drone is just flying around shooting things. I can see both. Coolvax's claws scraped against her command tablet. Our entire military doctrine assumes single-stream consciousness. We trained soldiers to maintain focus during distractions because we believed attention division meant capability reduction. But humans don't experience attention division. They experience attention multiplication. We've been training warriors to resist what humans consider normal environmental conditions, Jixrin added, his vocal sac deflating. Our elite soldiers achieve what human civilians do automatically. So what do? A counselor asked. Gina caught the drone itself, examined its projectile mechanism, and released it back into flight. Just ask humans to focus on one thing at a time. We can do that. It's actually kind of relaxing. We call it meditation, or deep focus. She smiled. It's just boring for us because we're used to tracking everything simultaneously. But if you need us to ignore distractions, we're capable of it. We just default to paying attention to everything because that's easier. Easier, Coolvax repeated. Then filtering stuff out, yeah. Filtering requires effort. Awareness is just default. The council looked at each other, decades of military theory crumbling around them. We need to completely restructure our training protocols, the lead counselor said finally. And apparently we need to rethink what we consider distraction versus normal working conditions. Gina's datapad chimed. Speaking of working conditions, I'm really behind schedule now. Can I go inspect the next facility? 3 months later, the Academy's revised training manual included an entire section titled Human Accommodation Protocols, Working with Multi-Stream Consciousness Species. Gina finished her quality control inspection of the new sensor arrays, noting significant improvements in the environmental stability readings. Her official title had expanded to include Background Threat Detection Consultant, though she insisted it was just a fancy way of saying she'd help test security systems while doing her regular job. Inspector Gina,
Jixerin approached with a datapad. I am redesigning the combat curriculum to account for consciousness architecture differences. Would you review these modules? She skimmed the document while simultaneously monitoring 3 diagnostic screens and tracking 2 maintenance drones moving overhead. Looks good. I like how you separated single focus and multi-stream
Tactics. Though you might want to add a note that humans can switch between modes if needed. Noted. Jixerin paused. I apologize for attempting to compromise your focus with thrown blades. Gina laughed. You were doing your job. I just happened to be neurologically weird by your standards. In the command center, Coolvax reviewed deployment recommendations from High Command. Humans were being fast-tracked for sentry positions, crisis response teams, and multi-threat coordination roles. What they'd considered a civilian quality control inspector had accidentally revealed humanity's greatest military asset: the inability to be distracted. They don't even consider it special, Coolvax muttered to Zilmoth. She treated lethal combat testing like background noise. Because for humans, it was background noise, the medical officer replied. We're still mapping the full implications. Back in the testing facility, Gina explained a neural network optimization bug to a group of technicians when one of them accidentally knocked a coffee container off the desk. Her hand shot out, caught it before a single drop spilled, and returned it to the surface, all without pausing her explanation of algorithmic efficiency. So if you restructure the data flow here, you'll reduce processing overhead by at least 30%, and... She noticed everyone staring. What? You just saved my coffee, the technician said. Yeah? Gina looked confused. It was falling. Was I supposed to let it spill? Jixerin, observing from the doorway, made another note in his curriculum redesign. Under the section titled Human Normal Operating Conditions, he added, Expect simultaneous task management during all activities. This is not enhanced performance. This is baseline. Gina returned to her explanation, humming softly, tracking 16 different environmental variables while discussing code optimization. Just another routine inspection. Just human normal.